I'm the same person I was when my dad was asking me that question when I was in 6th grade. Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And I've been working ever since. And it's obviously different now. There's different things I can do, but I'm the same person. No matter what happens, I'm going to be in that gym night in and night out. My routine's going to be the same. Just whether I score 40 or 0, my routine's going to be the same every time I step on the court, every time I step into that practice gym, just preparing myself. But everywhere I've gone since high school has started for me, it's always been Jalen Brunson's good, but like it's always that but. Like they're going to say something negative about it, and I've always, whatever I've done, you hear that in the first couple of years, and all of a sudden it's like Jalen's this, he's great, he does this and this. Then going to college, same thing, Jalen's good, but it was too slow, not athletic enough, too small, all those things that that don't measure heart, and that's what I have.
All right, my fellow Knicks fans, we here. The 53-year wait is finally gone. The Knicks are NBA champions, and in this segment, we're going to take a look at quite a few dynamics that played out throughout the whole series, allowing these guys to bring it home, especially defensively. That was one of the key anchors, as well as JB, Mr. El Capitan, bringing it home and actually finishing in a very exclusive list of just players who were able to close the NBA Finals out, scoring 45 points or more. My God, we did not expect this, but it's been historic. And this is a celebration of this squad. Leon Rose piecing this whole thing together, brick by brick. We're also going to hear from a few media members, especially on the Knicks side, guys like Iman, Shumpert, and others, as they kind of broke down the way JB was able to just cook up and get to his spots, and the way the San Antonio Spurs were compromised throughout this series, not maintaining their leads. First off, shout out to the Knicks transition defense, and they've come a long way because in the second half, they were able to apply that pressure and get Dylan Harper as well as Steven Castle to split their free throws on multiple occasions. And for this version of the Knicks, that transition defense was a huge part of last year's issues in that Eastern Conference Finals going up against the Indiana Pacers. Pascal Siakam especially was able to take advantage of the Knicks not necessarily being as disciplined in that part of their game. And in this year's playoff run, we're seeing Karl-Anthony Towns definitely put out more effort when it comes to that. Victor Wembanyama as well as Lou Cornett were trying to exploit him quite a few times in transition. But being hip to the game, Cat this year, he almost looks like a brand new man. We're just seeing a lot more hustle, a lot more rim protection. Even though he wasn't on the floor for much of Game 5, he was providing a lot of hustle plays for the New York Knicks. Ever since Karl-Anthony Towns came into the Knicks team, we wonder what happened to our defensive identity, especially in the paint. We kind of brought that back out in Game 5. And it gets tricky because out of all the Knicks players, Karl-Anthony Towns, he was asked the most to sort of change his previous identity. Not only he had to take a step back from the offense, but he definitely had to ratchet up his defensive presence. A lot of his old habits would have to die, as Wemby, he gets the block right here, but just pay attention to how he knows to go after Karl-Anthony Towns in transition. But Cat instantly gets up, no complaints. Look at Wemby. So Cat had to be on top of this. And that's where the Spurs really thrive at. They're not that half-court offensive team. The game plan really is to suffocate you with that perimeter defense and get points in transition. So Cat kind of killing some of those old bad habits that he has. Just staying on the ground and complaining. That's one chink in the armor that definitely needed to be touched up. So when it came to this Knicks team defense, as usual, a lot of the offense is being generated by the Spurs is off these Wemby pick and rolls, because as soon as that happens, guys got to stunt in a little bit more. And then this is how they get open looks. So it's up to guys like Castle, De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper to make the proper reads. But look at OG right here as he creeps in even more. So Fox is going to open up. But the Spurs, they continuously gave the Knicks different variations of how to deal with Wemby in the pick and roll. In Game 3, we saw them use an extra man, particularly a guard, to screen Cat when Wemby screens for a pick and roll. But of course, the Knicks were fighting through it the whole time. Look at Karl-Anthony Towns once again, about to get screened by Champagnie. OG is stunting in a little bit more. That's why I say it's up to Fox, Castle, and Harper to make the proper reads. Look at Wemby on the roll. Cat makes sure he gets in his way. Kind of messes it up right there. And this has been the issue with the Spurs all series long. Their play at guard. This little fumble right here kind of messes it up to make that skip pass. The Spurs also ran multiple plays to distract the Knicks. As right here, they have Shumpert follow someone into the corner. And they're going to run 2 pick and rolls right here. See, now Wemby quickly runs into a pick and roll, and there's another action right here to kind of distract the Knicks because they tend to overload when Wemby is involved in a pick and roll. But right now, Jose and Clarkson are going to be distracted right here. Just having the previous play in mind, this is what it normally looks like when the Knicks defense shifts when Wemby's involved in a pick and roll. Pay attention to Bridges and Josh Hart. They're going to overload. See? Vessel is open. These guys tend to overload. So in the previous play, they want to keep Jose and Landry Shamet occupied. But Bridges does a nice job closing that gap. With those few variations in mind, let's hop into game 5. As Wemby right here, he's going to set a pick. Notice Champagnie. He's going to ghost this screen right here. And it's always going to be up to Castle or De'Aaron Fox or even Harper to make the proper reads. And that's one of the many flaws of this Spurs team. They're not exactly intentional about using their size and having Victor Wembanyama in the paint. In game 4, we seen one of the reasons why the Knicks were able to come back is that San Antonio in the second half alone had 9 turnovers just from their guards, including 4 from their vet, De'Aaron Fox. So even though Wemby has entered into the league almost viewed as a generational talent, he still needs someone to get him the ball in the proper spots and to get easier shots. That's why it's been very shocking to enter into this series that they kind of awarded the Knicks being the underdog. We're in a very strange era where instead of hearing the actual reporting of what's going on within the league, we're sort of only getting information that's based off of how much clicks it could get. This series ending 4-1 is a prime example of it. Major media outlets are trying to find an explanation of why Jalen Brunson was able to just dominate in crunch time the way he did, just getting to his spots and knowing exactly what he wants to do. Just check out Iman Shumpert right here. Perfectly puts these things into proper perspective.
It could be just the Spurs being patient and not wanting to force him into something. But I know if they haven't already, this is your year with Tim Duncan. It's time to sit down with Tim Duncan for the whole summer and understand how to get to something, how to have a plan that nobody can do anything about, because now Wemby is finally going to get to see it. This playoffs would have taught him, hey, in the middle of these games, there's going to be that circus moment, the SpongeBob moment where everything's spinning and everything's blurry. And in all that chaos, I'm going to be the guy that gets right here and I shoot this shot. He's going to go back. You're going to have to watch Dirk. You're going to have to watch some Kobe. Go watch some Tim Duncan.
Like Jalen.
Watch some McKean.
Like Jalen. Jalen gets that left hand.
Yeah.
Doesn't even get the corner turned, but he gets to his spot or he gets to that step back.
And he does his change of speeds. What Jalen Brunson does so well is he gets even with his shoulders. He then takes up your space so you can't get in front. And then he uses
it's a bump.
Yeah, and then he uses his eyes. So he play fakes to the corner, and you got to respect it because he threw it all game.
And also, JB has great on-court situational awareness. I believe Wemby is still learning because when Mitchell Robinson grabbed that offensive board, he didn't even foul him. He let him toss the ball back out and the Knicks be able to get a better free throw shooter at the line. Like, that was a major fuck up by the Spurs.
One of the biggest drives of the game. He looked off the defender to the corner,
It was a fake, little fast fake, too.
Yep.
He threw a little pass.
Got right to the rim for a huge layup to tie the game.
Nice.
He's not tall. He's not fast, but he's strong.
He is
When
big
puts
body
his shoulder
Brunson
on
for a
you, he's
reason.
gonna move.
And that's
his handle.
That's what Shump is talking about. Shump is like, Victor's got to get there. He's got to get.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
But
just what you got to go through.
also, when Victor and them watch this, as a defensive player of the year, Victor Wembanyama, and Vic, when I see you, we will talk more elaborately. As a defensive player of the year, your defensive principles have got to be better. When you watch film this summer, I want you to accept your responsibility in this for just defensive positioning, because I saw at least 6 to 8 times, if your body is just in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, there's no way for some of the stuff to have happened. I look at a lot of those things, the little details. The Knicks, the right foot is up, able to deny, you're able to jab at the drive and then get back to your man in a closeout. You look at the Spurs, as the game wears on, their principles fold. Now they're even. They're no longer with their dig hand down on a crossover. They're reaching at the ball.
Yep.
They jumping at stuff. It's like, that's the young part, where those are the little things that you drill to say, when we get exhausted, we don't make these mistakes.
When you look at the way this series played out, the fact that the Spurs couldn't necessarily close out game 1, Wemby, the ball coming off his foot. Game 2, the butt pass, fouling Jalen Brunson even after that butt pass. And then in game 4, he didn't crash the boards. He also lost that putback. And then the most intentional part, he didn't even have the ball in his hands at the end of game 4. Again, it amazes me how the reporting was that the Knicks, no matter who made the NBA Finals, this is before the series even started, with an injured Oklahoma City Thunder team and a young San Antonio Spurs team, with the Knicks breaking playoff records for the amount of offensive output and just efficiency, the Knicks were still somehow predicted to be the underdogs. Once again, I want to stay on this because listen to NBA champion with the Dallas Mavericks, Brendan Hayward, sit down with Rick Buford and discuss the Spurs not necessarily strategizing and using Wemby's size very intentionally.
Out here doing karate or doing whatever with the monks. Hey man, I can save you a lot of money on flights this offseason, big fella. You ain't got to even leave San Antonio. David Robinson and Tim Duncan live in San Antonio. You need to get a back to the basket game that allows you to take advantage of the fact that you're 7'5".
Yeah.
I don't know if Wemby knows this or if he needs to hear this. When you're 7'5" and you're taking jump shots or step backs or fadeaways, even if you hit them, the other team does not care because you're not getting them in foul trouble. You're not in the paint. You're not demoralizing them by dunking the ball. When you're 7'5", the goal for you every night is for the other team at the end of the night to look at the stat sheet and just be like, he killed us in the paint. He made us feel that he was 7'5". And I think Wemby with a jump hook, I think a little bit more, I think he needs to get his jab series down. Like, Wemby can hit a mid-range shot, but he's not a mid-range scorer.
Right.
If that makes any sense. Like, Jalen Brunson, SGA, those are mid-range scorers. Kawhi Leonard is a mid-range scorer. Wemby is a guy that can hit a mid-range shot because he's talented, but he's not a mid-range scorer yet. Wemby has to be able, like those face-ups that David Robinson used to have, get all that. Learn from the Admiral. Like the jump hooks, the running hooks, get all that, because now when you face up, jab, I pull. The next time I jab and then I swipe through and I get to a running hook. The reason why I say the running hook is because when you shoot a running hook, you're still going towards the what? Basket. Okay? 7'5" got to play like 7'5". Now, I don't care what the analytics department tells you about threes. I don't care about what the new school mentality is, that you got to be able to go tween, step back. Game on the line, tween, step back ain't going to cut it at 7'5".
No,
and that's just like, listen, Wemby can listen or he cannot listen. He ain't going to hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy until he's able to control a game from 15 feet on in.
You would think right there, Brendan Hayward is actually describing Wemby, but he's really describing JB when you just really listen to what he's saying. JB is controlling the game from 15 feet on in, opposed to the real 7-footer that's on the floor that's supposed to be the generational talent.
That is the next step. They're going to be able to play through you, whether you're catching it on the low block or whether you're catching it in the mid post or whether it's a nail post up. 7'5", got to play 7'5", or it ain't going to work, big fella.
These are truly interesting times and modern day dilemmas for today's NBA teams. Hopping right back into game 5, the Knicks are marching a comeback in the third quarter, and it's the way the Spurs are running their offense. You would think they don't even have a 7-footer on the floor who's supposed to be a generational talent. This time around, they're operating with double screens, and it's always going to leave the option up to Castle, Harper, De'Aaron Fox to make the proper reads. Once again, this is a perfect scenario right here, going back to game 4, where the Knicks are marching a comeback, and San Antonio is dealing with a defense that's on the up and up. They're experienced, they're fairly disciplined at the moment, and because Wemby can't necessarily just position himself around the elbows, he doesn't have that inside game. They're constantly relying on their guards, who consistently throughout this series have made mistakes. Now right here, Fox, he kind of missed his vessel on the roll right here. He was wide open, but they're going to run another pick and roll with Wemby. See, once again, Wemby's always out in the perimeter. So Brunson, he can't really help out. He has to focus on the corner shooter making his run. OG stunts in a little bit more, and Fox is going to open up. But do they really want Fox even shooting? See, OG's going to bump Wemby. And now Castle, he makes the right read right here. OG has a great recovery. Going right back into game 5 in the second half, the Spurs give the Knicks a different look. This time around, Wemby, he's going to ghost it. He's not going to screen. So Jordan Clarkson has to come up. He's going to bump him. It's up to Fox to make the proper read. He has a person on the corner. He has Vessel. Or he could finish it himself. But at the end of the day, the ball is never in Wemby's hands. And the Knicks could live with that. So going into the time machine right here, this is game 5 of the 99 finals. And it ended the same way game 5 did of the 2026 finals. Both away teams were able to steal the game in crunch time. Now notice right here, San Antonio on the opposite end, Tim Duncan is going to establish himself on the inside, and the game is going to be worked from the inside out. And this is what Wemby really needs to work on. This is what Brendan Haywood was kind of referring to, establishing himself in the post. Wemby does not do this at all. And the Spurs are going to get an open shot right here. This is a dagger to kind of tie the game up and apply some pressure from the Knicks. But this is the dilemma of the modern game today. And we're starting to see the analytics kind of run into a wall. Because make no mistake about it, that era of the NBA is ending. The heavy analytical teams, they're definitely dying off. The Cavaliers coach looking crazy, making excuses for it. The Knicks had the 76ers completely look at Daryl Morey a lot different as he made his exit. Some of the philosophies are starting to hit a wall, including positionless basketball, because that concept is coming from that same tree. Wemby not being able to utilize his size in the finals. SGA as well as Jalen Brunson being one of the few players who actually have sort of foregone their kind of combo guard status and elevate at the highest levels. There's a lot of players throughout the league. The APB is still out on them. Paolo Banchero, Kay Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, all these kind of combo forwards / guards. Can they lead their teams all the way to the finals and win at the highest levels, being that decision maker, that playmaker? That includes controlling the pace, getting to their spots, being in complete control of these games in the closing moments, like we've seen Jalen Brunson in the finals. That is very consistent coming from him. That's where a lot of the ESPNs and just bigger conglomerates of this whole NBA ecosystem, they're having a very difficult time explaining why Jalen Brunson is having an easier time controlling these games from round to round in the playoffs. And it's fairly consistent. This positionless basketball era is going to have a lot of victims. Not every player, just because they have the ability to play point guard, should be doing it, especially at the highest levels, going deep into the playoffs all the way into the finals. Victor Wembanyama is very talented in a lot of facets of the game. Just because he could play like a wing player doesn't necessarily mean he should be out there in the wing and not utilizing his size. That's why I said this whole positionless / heavy analytical era of the NBA is slowly starting to hit a wall, because at the end of the day, they're going to have to see some results on the highest levels of the game. And it has yet to happen. The Golden State Warriors with Stephen Curry, that is not a heavy analytical team. Do not get that twisted. Again, hopping right back into that time machine. Very crucial moments right here. Knicks up 2. Tim Duncan is going to establish himself in the post. And just like Brendan Haywood has said earlier, players getting points out of the paint does cause multiple issues, including getting into the line in a situation like this and stopping the clock. So hopping right back into game 5, Knicks in the fourth quarter right here, we're slowly watching the Spurs get suffocated because their star player can't establish himself in the post. So they're going to keep running these plays where Wemby, you don't know if he's going to screen. Right here, he's going to ghost it. And really, the only things that tend to open up, because when he does roll, the Knicks kind of stunt in a little bit more, is the guard play for the Spurs. It's going to have to be on point, and they're going to overly rely on that. Look at Vessel right here, wide open. Once again, all these comebacks by the Knicks are starting to make sense. Game 1, a 14-point deficit. Game 2, 12. Game 4, a 29-point deficit. And of course, the closeout game, 16 points in the fourth quarter alone. The Spurs had late game leads throughout the whole series. But yet, when you just add up all the points scored by both teams, the Knicks only outscored them by 12. It shows you how close things really were. Again, hopping right back into the fourth quarter. More looks from Wemby in the Spurs. He's going to rescreen right here, but he's going to ghost it the second time around. And we got to remember, this is a lot of energy for a big man to, just exude out here in the court. And consistently, it's going to be the guards. It's going to be wide open. They're going to have to knock down these shots. So just keeping that last play in mind with Wemby just being out there so far up, and then he has to make his runs in order to initiate that offense. That's a lot of energy once again. And the Knicks, they made sure in the second half to keep pulling Wemby up defensively. That's why he was trying to conserve energy, trying to stay in the post, have guys switch off to the guards of the Knicks, whether it be Shamet coming off of screens or Jordan Clarkson, Deuce McBride, Brunson, etc. See, that's the bind that the Knicks had him in. The Spurs, in order to start their offense, they got to involve him so high up top. And so defensively, the Knicks try to bring him up the same way. And that's where we're starting to see a crunch in his minutes. Because remember, during the regular season, he only averaged 29 minutes a game. So just in game 4 alone, in that crazy comeback with OG tipping the ball in the second half alone of that game, the Knicks brought him up 18 times. And they did the same thing in the closing game. Just keep bringing Wemby up, having him defend, pick and rolls, forcing him to switch off on guys, and then bringing him back up. That's where Jose Alvarado in game 4 proved very, very pivotal for Mike Brown in that substitution. Hopping right back into the fourth quarter, game 5, the Knicks early in this possession, they know exactly what they want to do. Check out Karl Anthony Towns right here. He's going to ghost this screen because Wemby now is on an island with OG. And if OG comes up to set this screen, Wemby's got to defend it. The Knicks get the switch. And now JB is going to take him to school. Make no mistake about it, fatigue was definitely a factor for Wemby because Brunson was able to go to the line in transition with Wemby trailing. And it was only a 3-point game with Wemby having to sit for about a minute. He played the whole fourth quarter, but he had to sit out right there. That's why when you factor in the way the Spurs kind of run their offense involving Wemby so high up top, he's not in the post, kind of conserving energy, then he could just bang down low. And you combine that defensively with the Knicks just switching and just strategically bringing him up, forcing him to cover more space. You see where they begin to have him in a bind. Boy, right here, the Knicks are very cerebral. Josh Hart right away notices Wemby's on him, so he's going to set the screen. Look how JB sets Harper up right here. Woo! Okay, now forces Wemby up. Damn. They don't want the Knicks to live, not even calling a flagrant. The Knicks were very intentional keeping Wemby up top. Look at Money Mitch. He's already down the court. Never went to the paint. Keeping Wemby up top. Forces him to cover a lot of ground. Got to cover all this. Remember how the Spurs run their offense. Wemby's also up top, covering a lot of ground. Normally, this wouldn't be a big deal, but the fact that the NBA media does want Wemby to be the face of the league, but just all that MVP talk for a guy who averaged 29 minutes per game and his team didn't necessarily rely on him in crunch time, it's kind of funny in the light. But some of the Europeans do have that, what I like to call Porzingis stamina. Once again, the Knicks were a little bit more intentional when it came to their offense as Mitch forces Wemby up, but I like the decision making right here from Money Mitch, as now Wemby once again is going to be forced up with Mitch and Bridges running pick and roll actions. And the Knicks right there is able to have Wemby moving from side to side. Just looking at this one more time, this quick zip pass right here to force Wemby to come up on the weak side is very similar to the way Oklahoma kind of played it out in that Western Conference Finals to get Wemby moving from side to side instead of just being stationary in the paint. Instead of SGA running this play right here, they quickly zip it to Hartenstein for a dribble handoff, forcing Wemby to come up. See, now you get him out the paint. And even if he missed, Hartenstein is right there for the cleanup. But hopping right back into the closing game once again, this is what Iman Shumpert was talking about earlier with the bad positioning. Notice how Wemby, he's on Mitchell Robinson, but no one's really ready to defend the paint in case there's a blow-by the San Antonio Spurs. It's pretty shocking for a top defense in the San Antonio Spurs to end this series. They never fully committed to blitzing and just getting the ball out of Brunson's hands. You know, my fellow Knicks fans, I'm pretty sure the league after these finals have been put on notice about JB, because check out De'Aaron Fox right here. He just stunts in. I don't think next season guys are just gonna let Brunson just dance like this. The respect factor is now fully there. He can just completely kill. This should already have been known, but I guess you really have to do it in the biggest stage of them all. It's kind of crazy because JB can kill you in a number of ways, as this right here, this is going to be a huge go-ahead bucket and a catch and shoot too to put a lot of pressure on the Spurs. Every once in a while in the NBA, you really can't explain it. You just get like a winning player as JB gets a switch right here, even into a more difficult matchup, but he still overcomes it. And you know, once he touches the paint, he's almost like Patrick Ewing, man. Shit is just going in. Let's go back to that one more time. Look at this Knicks lineup right here. You got Wemby on Josh Hart. Got a mismatch right here. That's probably why they can't necessarily blitz. And then you got the killer in JB. See? Just in case, you know, this floater misses. You got the mismatch. You got a small forward / shooting guard who rebounds sort of like a forward. And that's probably why the Spurs, they really couldn't double like that. That's the beautiful thing about this Knicks team. There's a number of ways they can kill you. And just to have the head of the snake as Jalen Brunson, where in crunch time, you already know, don't let him touch the paint. And it's so hard for the rest of the league, especially the media pundits, to define what kind of player he is. But the ones that know saw it really early on in his time in New York. I said it before in that Miami series. It really showed in that Game 6 in South Beach, where none of the Knicks starters were doing anything, and Eric Spoelstra was tossing a ton of different looks, 2-3 zone, man-to-man, and JB was still cooking. And then going down the timeline, he eventually went mano-a-mano against Joel Embiid with a very injured-riddled Knicks team. Embiid was the reigning MVP at the time, but Brunson was able to make easy work of that Philadelphia 76ers team and still receive no credit, as the Knicks, on top of all the injuries that they already had, lost a shooter and Mitchell Robinson in that series. Again, JB has always had to overcome the, yeah, he's great, but excuse. Just peep this conversation between JJ Redick and Tim Legler from just a few seasons ago. A little flashback. Two of the more, I would say, savants within this NBA ecosystem. And they kind of try to put into words what exactly their eye test was really telling them about Brunson. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Are you surprised at all at the Knicks' success?
To this extent, yes. And I've said this all year. Well, since about midseason. I missed by as wide a degree as any player I've covered in my career as a broadcaster, the ceiling for a player as I have with Jalen Brunson. And this is a guy that, I watch a lot of Big Five basketball. That's where I played. Nova, I got to their practices and watched him. I saw a ton of games, and obviously he was a great, great college player. I thought, could Jalen Brunson be, a starting point guard on a really good team, like coming out? I wasn't sure about that. And then you saw him, with what he did in Dallas when he got his opportunity, and he was obviously sensational. But still, he becomes $100+ million free agent, like the biggest free agent really to change teams practically. And I'm saying, what is his ultimate ceiling? Like, is this a 16 to 18 point a game type of point guard, which is a really nice player in the league? But to be doing this every night where now you expect 25 and 30 and 35 point, games, man, has he been impressive. So, yes, I am surprised about the overall team success of the Knicks. He is by far the biggest reason. And, I just missed it on how good he could be. And I'm going to be singing his praises the rest of his career because that guy earns it all because he went out and took it.
The thing with Jalen that I think it all sort of factors into what makes him valuable, because there's a lot of guards this year that have had all NBA caliber seasons, and there's 6 spots. And look, it's unlikely Jalen gets all NBA, but it's the efficiency, it's the impact on winning, because he's doing this, his 29 game stretch since January 1, where it's 28 a game, 51% from the field, 45% from they're 19 and 10 in the games that he plays, right? It's the impact on winning.
And that's something right there that gets overlooked by a lot of the media pundits because, once again, we're in a clickbait era. So the name, the star power, that has a lot to do with especially what ESPN talks about. And with Brunson, we're seeing there is a difference between a winning player and a guy. I don't want to toss out no names out there. I was about to say Ant-Man, but there's certain personalities that are well liked versus others, and it doesn't necessarily translate to on-court success as much as clout that they get within the media.
It's the elevation of Julius Randle, right? He's taken away so many ball handling responses. Julius can be a scorer, and when he's in isolation and he drives, a kick out guy. Like, Julius can be the best version of him.
Yeah.
And then the cultural impact of Jalen. Like, you factor all that in, it's just like, okay, yeah, maybe his numbers aren't as good as this guy, but I want to be clear, he's having an all NBA caliber season.
Completely.
And then he also allows other players to cook. His game is not so ball dominant where other guys can't necessarily get it going, because he can catch and shoot. He can play off ball. A lot of stars in the NBA, even I would say in the past, I would say post-Jordan years, a lot of those stars, they couldn't necessarily play off ball.
I agree. And for young players, you want to look at a guy like Jalen Brunson and figure out, well, how is he getting this done? Because he's not a blur. He's not vertical. Right? He plays a grounded game. He's not blowing by anybody. He's quicker probably than he looks in his body type. He's quicker than that. Comes down to footwork, strength, IQ, confidence, and then the big one, and this is why this is translated to New York. He thrives in big moments.
Facts. And just going back to what Legler said about the footwork and just a lot of the other tangibles that he does have, that kind of proved the point that he is a real deal guard, because when you look at smaller players that are kind of his peers, guys like Trae Young, who kind of really thrived off of the rules the way they were before 2021, where you could just take a shot, lean sideways, or just land on a guy and that'll be called a foul. You see his game sort of change. Like, his numbers actually decrease after they changed the rules post 2021, where you see Jalen Brunson consistently his numbers are still going up or he's maintaining it.
I mean, and we should have probably seen that from his career at Villanova. But a lot of people in his boat that were like, it's kind of like a backup guard, got this opportunity in Dallas, played right in the right time. Now I signed this huge deal, biggest name to like change teams, because all the big contracts were retaining guys with their own team. He's like the big name that changed teams was Jalen Brunson, $100+ million, Madison Square Garden expectations. He's like, bring it all. I'm good with it. And he was from the very beginning of the season. So that final component of not being fazed by pressure, you add all that up, and this is what you get in Jalen Brunson. So you don't have to be this like freak athlete, and he's proving that because he just gets where he needs to go. He's always playing at his pace. His footwork's incredible, even with all the pivots and the up and unders and all the stuff he does once he gets downhill. And then his physical strength is definitely sets him apart too. He plays through contact. He's never off balance when he drives and finishes. So you add all that up and you get this. And it's like I said earlier, I think he, Mitchell, and Sabonis are the three guys in their first full year this year with the new team have had by far the biggest impact. And maybe Brunson at the top of the list.
Jalen, by the way, fourth in the NBA in clutch points, and he's doing it on 51% from the field in clutch moments. I love that you mentioned his footwork. Yeah. To me, it's so elite.
Yeah.
When people talk about changing pace, a lot of times people are talking about changing pace with the basketball. To me, he does such a good job of changing pace with his feet.
Yeah.
And that's what sets it up. And the fact that he's now become a legitimate 40-plus three-point shooter, that you cannot play off of him. You can't go under ball screens. Like he will. I've been to a number of Knicks games this year. I've called their games. I watched their game. Like if you go under a ball, he's going to shoot it. If you're in a drop coverage and he comes off the ball screen and you extend your defense out and he's got that he's going to shoot it.
Now, I would say JB, after the first year with the Knicks, he improved on just, coming off the screens and pulling up from three. That is something that is really overlooked and not said enough. He definitely has improved on that. I mean, the way it's going in nowadays is completely compromising teams.
And he's making them at a 41% clip. That opens up everything else. Because what he wants to do, he wants to use his body and his footwork to get in the paint and shoot floaters. And because he can shoot threes so efficiently now, he can get wherever he wants to go on a basketball court.
And I think that for me is probably the biggest area which I underestimated his ability, to get to that level. I thought he's going to probably be a 33 to 34% three-point shooter. Like that's what he was going to be based on his stroke and how quick his release was or wasn't, and again, not really getting off the ground to get him off when he wants to. That all translated to an average, mediocre type of guard three-point shooter in the NBA. That has been what's transformed him into this more than anything, because he's always been he's going to be clever and he's going to do his thing with the little mid-range and the floaters and getting into the paint and pivoting around in a circle 4 times and getting guys to jump 3 times before he shoots it. Like we've seen that. Getting to this point where every time he goes up to shoot a 3, you're expecting it to go in. I didn't think I'd ever get there with him.
And that kind of three-point shooting is at an efficiency that Damian Lillard, going up against high-level talent in the playoffs, he's never done. Once again, it's amazing how this interview right here, it all comes around in a full circle as Jalen Brunson helps lead the Knicks to an NBA title. Now, in the closeout game in the final 4 minutes, you're going to see exactly what Tim Legler was talking about, the respect level with Brunson just coming off of this pick. Guys got to meet him right at the line, and his three-point shot is so well respected. You know he can kill you anywhere in the paint, but also he can kill you with that 3 as he draws a foul, and he's able to knock down all three-point shots. That actually almost went in also. Now, outside of JB, I got to say the time management by Mike Brown in Game 5 of Karl-Anthony Towns just getting into foul trouble, just maneuvering through his rotations. Mitchell Robinson got tired a little bit in that first half, so he had to sub in Sohan and make little minor tweaks here and there. Even having Ariel Hokporty sub in the fourth quarter, and he had a major key block. The Knicks low-key got a lot of good center play in Game 5, even with Karl Towns in foul trouble. You look at that missed free throw from Josh Hart. I don't know how the hell Wemby allowed Mitch to not only get the rebound, but to kick it out to OG Anunoby without fouling. But this whole Knicks organization, there was a lot of people with, things to prove. They had a chip on their shoulder, including Mike Brown. This has truly been one of the most New York teams that we've ever seen. No top lottery picks. There are a number of players, including coaching personnel, who were overlooked. And the story could not have worked out any better than this. This was a New York-ass team. But tying this right back into Mike Brown, just selecting the undrafted kid from Brooklyn, Jose Alvarado, in Game 4, and completely changing that fourth quarter to now having him in the closeout game, not having Karl-Anthony Towns in that Knicks center rotation. It's kind of crazy. Again, it couldn't have played out any better than this. Even a few people throughout the NBA media have taken notice.
I've played for great coaches. I've played for not so great coaches. The one thing I say that most great coaches have, they have it similar in the same way that great players have it. In the high leverage moments, the game slows down for them,
Yes.
and they still see
Yes.
their adjustments. And some coaches, just like certain players, in the high leverage moments, they get sped up. They get nervous. Their heart starts beating faster, and they miss all the little things. And there's just either you got it or you don't. And I'm here to tell you today, Mitch Johnson, there are some people on a group chat sending some messages about whether you got it or not.
Yeah.
You got till next year's All-Star break to show you got it, or your David Blatt moment might be happening.
Yep. No, I think that's fair. And there's also, when it comes to those coaches and not feeling the pressure in the moment, they also have the confidence to do what they think needs to be done rather than just going by the book.
Yes.
They're like, they can look at a situation and say, this is what this situation calls for. And I don't care whether the analytics people or whoever it is, I know my team and I know the situation, and it may not work. It may not work, but they know why they're doing what they're doing, and they're willing to think out of the box in those moments. Now, all that said about Mitch Johnson, Mike Brown, once upon a time, was Mitch Johnson. He had his opportunity. He got to the finals. He had several opportunities with various teams, and he wasn't the coach that he is today. He didn't coach with the confidence that he does today. He in many ways was more of a by-the-book coach, did not control the locker room in a way, did not know how to deal with superstar players. And he has grown all along the way. And I think maybe for all of the head coaching positions that he had, I think one of the most valuable situations that he had was when he was an assistant coach with the Golden State Warriors.
Yep.
Because he saw how that was done. And he's like, okay, I need to incorporate that. He did it offensively, and he did it overall in terms of just his presence as a head coach. That was the thing that really got me watching him during these finals, is watching him and watching Mitch. Mike Brown was never flustered. And you had a team that was, trailing 72% of the time? And not only was he not flustered, but he still had the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to do this the way I think it needs to be done.
And it completely showed, once again, with that Jose Alvarado lineup to end Game 4, and also noticing that Deuce McBride wasn't shooting as well in certain spots in this series, and subbing in Jordan Clarkson. That did prove very, very pivotal.
Yeah. And I'm not going to worry, I'm not going to second guess myself or worry about anybody who's going to be a critic after the fact. And all of that played out in big fashion.
But it is what it is. As you can see, there's a lot of underdog stories across this organization. And this Knicks franchise, they built this brick by brick. Unlike a lot of these other NBA teams, they're going to get easier lotteries. And we've always never had luck with any of that. But this run has truly been historic. This Knicks team has finished with champions such as the 2001 Lakers and the 2017 Warriors when it comes to just how dominant they were and their offensive efficiency. I believe the Knicks do have the most or the highest point differential in NBA finals or just playoff history. And the NBA has been around for well over 80 years. So this has been historic. You guys definitely enjoy it. Don't let anyone in the media tell you otherwise. This has been a truly historic run. Until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.